Strength Show.
Welcome to the first episode of the Balkan Strength Show. I'm so excited to announce this episode. I'm your host Orda, and with me is my co-host and dear friend Jovan.
Hi.
So today in this first episode we would like to talk about the Balkan Strength Show. What it is, how it will differ from the other podcasts, what can the audience expect, who am I, who is Jovan, what is our background from a sport perspective, and that's about it. So what is the Balkan Strength Show? The Balkan Strength Show will be a show where we will talk about sports and their strength perspective. Not only strength sports, but almost every sport that includes some kind of strength. That will be, but mostly we will focus on powerlifting, weightlifting, strongman, and other sports that require a great deal of strength. But we will also include track and field, gymnastics, wrestling, arm wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, fighting sports in general,
Yes.
and maybe other topics that concern strength training.
Or in short, MMA. That's the most popular today.
Yeah.
That includes all the martial arts, and it involves a lot of strength training as well,
Yeah, strength and conditioning.
and conditioning.
Yeah, which is a huge part of fighting. So why creating this podcast? This podcast is being created because me and Jovan, even though we like our North American bros that do a lot of podcasts, and we respect their knowledge on strength training, and even though they know something about the Eastern strength training philosophy, I believe that the Balkan, being in a specific area in the world where the West and the East meets, so we have a lot of Eastern and Western influence over here, not only in strength training but in a lot of areas in life. I believe that over here we have a different point of view on strength training because we have a lot of influence from the Eastern Bloc, especially Russian training, because they were kind of revolutionary in training in general. They produced a lot of great athletes, especially in the 20th century.
Yes, and most of our coaches were trained by the Russian system. I remember like all of the other sports that we have, athletics or boxing coaches, and everything that we have, they use the Russian system. So there's a lot more, and also or of the other countries around us, they also used a lot of that approach.
Yeah, methodology in a way.
Yes.
Especially the Bulgarians during the 70s, 80s, and even 90s were really great and ruled supreme in weightlifting.
Yes.
They won a lot of medals in different categories, and they were known for their brutal high frequency training. That
Squatting like 5, 6, 7 days a week.
Yeah, but not only that, squatting multiple times a day. So that is really brutal. Basically living the life of a professional athlete and treating it like it's a job. Training something like 8 hours a day, not constant obviously, because if you train 8 hours non-stop you will notice fatigue immediately and you will burn out after a few days. But basically being in a sports gym for 8 hours per day and doing a couple of workouts with a couple of hours in between.
Well, that was the their program was who will make it to the end will be the winner.
Yeah.
If you don't get injured along the way,
You will basically win a medal.
yes, you're winning
Yeah,
gold
don't-
medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, that's guaranteed.
If you survive.
Yeah, that's guaranteed. So that's how I believe our podcast will differ from other strength podcasts, because we will try to incorporate and analyze Western methodology and Eastern methodology of training, and basically trying to get the best
The information. People that are fans of strength sports and the history of the sports and how it became popular, how it was, what were the results, what were the pros and the cons of each system of the west side of
the pros and the cons. That was
the Eastern Bloc. Which one had more injuries, which one had better results, which one had more longevity for the athletes. So we'll try to cover all of that.
yes. So that is basically it. What can the audience expect, in short? So I'll start with me. I'm Orde. I basically trained my whole life. I'm now 29 years old. I've started with basketball. That was my first love. That's what got me involved in training. As a kid, I was always energetic. I ran a lot, so it was not that difficult to get into basketball and improve upon my physical traits. So besides basketball, when in my teen years, I also did track and field, in particular the 100-meter dash. I didn't spend a lot of time training track and field, but I highly respect those moments and experience, because it taught me a lot of things about explosive training, plyometric training, and even some sort of body weight strength training that can improve speed and strength in a lot of areas. From then on, at the age of 19, I basically got into powerlifting and strength training in general. When I first started, I was like the average bros in the gym, did the classic bodybuilding routine, chest, biceps, triceps on separate days, legs, shoulders, but I quickly found out that didn't fulfill my needs or ego in a way, because I really appreciated performance. I still do, and I still believe that performance is essential, and it will lead to a better physique and better look and better health during your later years. So in powerlifting, I competed during my first couple of years starting powerlifting. After that, I had a couple of surgeries that prevented me from competing and training as hard as I can. After that, I got back into powerlifting more seriously, competed in 2019 with Jovan, which was a good meet and a great experience. Now I'm battling with a couple of injuries that I hope that I will manage to take care of them, to get them taken care of, and that's basically it. Now we can hop on to Jovan, and he can tell his sports background.
Okay, so in short, I started training when I was 12, 13. I started with soccer, and I was too fat to play, so I was the goalkeeper. That was the early beginning. but I didn't like it too much. But I was pretty good at it. I was a pretty good goalkeeper, and right after that I started going to the gym because I was carrying a lot of body weight. I was like 80 kilos at 13. I don't know how much is that in pounds. It's like 190. 180. Yes, so I started going to the gym.
How tall were you?
Back then?
At 13 and 80 kilos? 180
like
pounds approximately?
175, I believe.
Centimeters?
Yes.
So 5'9", basically.
Yes.
You were a big kid for your age.
Well, I was the tallest of my generation.
How tall are you now?
I'm 184. That's like 6 feet, I believe.
6'1".
Yes,
Yeah.
something in between.
6'1", yeah.
And
I'm 5'10", by the way.
yeah. Then I started with martial arts around 14, and that became my passion. I had some injuries from lifting, so I dedicated myself more onto martial arts. I started doing karate first of all, if you can call it karate. It was some coach in my city that held his trainings. But after that I started training kickboxing, and that's when I started with competitions and I got more involved. And then when I went to college I started with boxing.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was 19, and I did that for until I was like 25, 26.
So
And
good 6-7 years of competitive boxing.
competitive, yes. But I did it like 10, 12 years training. I set up a heavy bag and everything that I needed in my garage and later in my basement. So because I was training in another city, I couldn't go there every day. I only could afford once a week. So I went once a week over there to do sparring and all that, and to learn some new techniques and everything. But all of the other workouts I did at home, because even though martial arts is individual sport, you also need sparring partners. You can train as much as you want, but you
It's
have
still
to,
a fighting sport.
Yes,
You
yes.
need to fight somebody.
Yes. You need to feel, because the bags don't hit back.
Yeah.
they don't move. So it's a lot different when you do sparring.
Yeah.
And-
What were your best results in boxing, kickboxing? You competed outside of Macedonia. We didn't mention that we are from Macedonia.
Yes, I won some state championships. I took silver on international championships, and that's about it. I was going to start fighting professionally, but I had an injury.
Unfortunately,
Yes, to the shoulder neck area, and it was too risky
to continue.
to continue. It was a nerve. It was not like something that it took actually a lot of years to improve, and it's still not 100%. It's still giving me issues even with lifting. Mm-hmm. And that's basically the time that I switched from. So I started with strength sports a lot later than Orde, and I was training in a gym, but it was a lot different. It was like a circuit training. I was doing pull-ups, dips, bodyweight, squats, burpees, a lot of these like 4 or 5 exercises, then 1 minute rest.
More something like metcon training, metabolic conditioning.
Yes. Because that's how the competition is held. You know, you go for 3 minutes, you rest 1 minute. So that's how the whole training
Fighting requires a lot of conditioning. Of course, it requires strength as well, but conditioning is a must. If you're not a conditioned fighter, you won't last plenty of rounds. And as you said, you started later with strength-focused training.
Yes, after I stopped competing, I had a battle with depression, and I stopped training all around, and it basically went from 12 workouts per week to 0, and
to an athlete's mindset, that's tough.
Yes,
that's tough.
A lot of drinking and all of that. So
unhealthy.
I gained a lot of weight, so I had to do something. So I started going to the gym, but as Orde said, classic training did not appeal to me like bodybuilding. I have nothing against bodybuilding. We use it a lot in our training.
But I need to mention this. That's not the proper way to bodybuild according to us, because we believe that's an inferior bodybuilding type of training, splitting every muscle group into a separate day, like chest on one day, arms on another, shoulder on third, legs, and so on and so forth.
That's a very effective program if you're enhanced. So that's basically the program that was developed during and after the golden era.
Joe Weider basically created that program, and that's because it worked. It works. It can work for a beginner. Beginner can...
Yes, everything works for beginner.
Yeah, if you train, you will gain as a beginner. If you train with good form and heart. But after a while, if you're an intermediate athlete, I believe it's inferior compared to other bodybuilding training programs when you are a natural athlete. By natural, we mean an athlete that doesn't use performance-enhancing drugs like anabolic steroids, growth hormone, insulin, SARMs, stuff like that, peptides that can improve your performance. But for enhanced athletes that use performance-enhancing drugs, that's okay, because they have increased protein synthesis that lasts longer than it would last with a natural athlete.
Yes.
With a natural athlete, it lasts somewhere around 36 to 48 hours after a workout.
So it's good to hit every muscle every 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, I would say the bare minimum that anybody serious about hypertrophy or strength training, they need to hit their muscle groups at least twice a week if they want to see progress in their intermediate and advanced stages as a natural.
Yes, and that was the system used before the all the enhancement came. So if you go back to all the athletes like Steve Reeves, even they started doing something at that time. Even the bodybuilders and strength athletes before them, they were all using like more compound movements and more
full body training.
Yes, more full body training.
3 times a week.
Yes, that's basically how I train, 3 times a week, full body.
Yeah, so you hit almost every muscle group 3 times a week.
Yes.
So that is kind of what is considered optimal in today's strength world. Not according to all of the scientists, because strength scientists, because they believe besides frequency, volume and intensity are 2 other key components that need to be taken into consideration. And go on, Johan, about your powerlifting journey after you.
Yeah, so when I started lifting, it was okay. I cannot do half-ass something like to. Immediately, I wanted to compete in something else. So
you had that athlete's
yes.
mindset.
So if I start something, I'm going all in or nothing. So that's why it was very bad when I started drinking. I was drinking all the alcohol. Yeah, so
you were enhanced.
yes. I opened.
Liver enhanced.
I'm drunk and I'm opening a pack of cigarettes. I'm smoking all of it. So I cannot be in the middle. That's good and bad if you can control yourself. So that's how I started.
You've been on that alcohol.
Yes, basically. So.
What are your best lifts in powerlifting? Training wise.
So I started lifting seriously basically at around 27. Now I'm 30 years old, so I'm doing this powerlifting thing for 3 years.
Yeah, and I will mention that Jovan still hasn't reached his peak, in my opinion. He's still improving his lifts on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. He hits constantly PRs. So
yes, I started late, so even though I'm my best lifts
on the
squats 210 in reps and 190 kilos in sleeves. So I'm not getting a lot from the reps.
From the reps. But 20 kilos is around 45 pounds, so it's not a difference to neglect, but it's still not what the top powerlifters get out of their reps.
Yes, basically I was preparing for a meet that allowed reps, and I was training in reps, so I was on peak when I hit that 210. And then that meet got cancelled, and then in 2 weeks I competed in a IPF organization that doesn't allow knee reps.
Yeah, that's when your last meet was cancelled. So
yes.
So
I squatted 190 with knee sleeves.
Yeah.
And that's my best squat.
In sleeves.
Yes, my bench 150 kilos in training, 145 in meet, and deadlift is.
That's paused. We must mention that it's not touch and go. And deadlift.
And deadlift is 240 in the gym and on the meet.
On the platform.
The platform.
That's great, because your best lifts are almost as identical as what you've put up on the platform.
Yes.
As an athlete, that's fantastic.
So how about you? What are your bests?
My best gym lifts
and
differ a lot from my best meet lifts, because I've hit my best gym lifts when I was not competing. I didn't compete those years because first of all, I wasn't mentally right. Not being mentally ill or something, but I was focused on other stuff. I was getting married at the time. I was working a lot of hours, but I still managed to train hard, and I didn't peak properly on some of the lifts. Plus, some of the gym lifts that I hit, the best gym lifts that I've hit are on separate occasions, so it's kind of a super gym total. I wouldn't have hit that in a meet, even in my best shape, which I hope nowadays to get back to it and maybe improve it. My best gym squat is 265 kilos. Pounds would be something like 580 pounds. My best...
That's like 6 plates for the gym bros. That's how I count it, not 5 pounds and kilos.
Yeah, my best post bench press, even though I've done more on the touch and go and with my ass off the bench, I don't count that. My best bench is something like 155 kilos or 340 pounds. And my best deadlift is around 280 kilos, and that would be something like 620 pounds. That was done at a body weight of nearly 100 kilos. I was 97, 98 kilos at the time, or 215, 217 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, my best mid lifts are far less, but also done at a lesser body weight. I've done 215 kilo mid squat, 130 kilo bench, and 250 deadlift. I would like to improve those numbers in the future because they are far off from my best gym lifts, and I regret that I didn't compete in those years.
In your peak, basically. But
in my peak so far, because I plan on improving that at a lesser body weight, because I feel I have the potential to hit similar numbers at 200 pounds.
yeah, I believe you have the squat and the deadlift even right now with a good.
The squat maybe not, because that's a.
Of course, you're like 10 kilos lighter now, but
Yeah, but the deadlift I can achieve that. At the last meet, while I was preparing, I've hit, and after the meet, I've hit several PRs on several variations, especially on the deficit deadlift. So that means that I was around my peak on the deadlift, but the squat and the bench are really connected with the body weight. So the higher you go in body weight, the easier those lifts become, and the easier it is to hit PRs. So I believe that even though I get into a really good shape in the following year or so, if I manage my injuries properly, I will still be a bit less than my peak. But it will still be good, because for somebody that wasn't enhanced, those are okay numbers.
also if I convince him to squat in reps.
Yeah, I haven't squatted in reps and I don't know how to use them.
I'll wrap you, don't worry.
Yeah. Johan, even though he is less experienced in powerlifting, he knows how to use certain powerlifting gear better than me, which I highly respect. He is really good at noticing details about certain stuff and lifts. I may be more technique focused guy. He's more of a powerlifting gear focused guy in regarding details. But we will try to complement each other, and we are doing that.
Yes, we're basically
so far
like
good. Yeah.
We're arguing all the time. Nah, this is better, that's better. But even though
in a good way,
yes.
we're criticizing ourselves, our form, how we treat training, how we treat recovery as well.
the end goal is to improve. Yeah, so a lot of times I haven't agreed with Orde on something. He'll mention it like 5, 6, 7 times, and then until I mess it up by myself and I hit a wall with my head, and then I say, okay, you are right.
Yeah, but that means that we care about each other and how our lifts go up.
Yes.
It's not.
That's basically it. It's the whole journey, not only chasing, but to enjoy the process of
improving.
Of improving yourself.
Yeah. As I've gotten deep into powerlifting, because at this point I've trained on and off powerlifting for about a decade. So I believe that I have at least a small amount of experience compared to the other guys that are in the strength world. And as I mentioned at the start of this episode, the Balkans is a very interesting area in the world, because basically here is where the West meets the East. So guys, this is it for the first episode. I hope you like it. We will talk about plenty of interesting topics in the next episodes. This was sort of an intro to get to know us. The episodes will be mostly raw. We will try to edit as little as possible, because we would like to, for the audience to get the feel that this is a normal talk. It's not superficial, it's not marketed or something like that. We simply want to talk about strength training, sports, and to share our experience and views.
Yes, to entertain you and to hopefully someone learns something, hopefully we learn something, basically to improve everything.
Yeah, we will try to get interesting guests on this podcast. Maybe somebody from the Eastern Bloc that can talk in detail about the training, the monstrous, brutal training regimes that they had back in those times. And even now, there are a lot of interesting athletes from the Eastern Bloc, and that will give you a different perspective. So that's it. Till next time, stay strong.
Yeah.
Balkan Strength Show.